How can we trigger innovative creative processes? What are those processes that lead us to designs? What are the formats of design? How can we design new formats? That's the topic we're going to talk about today, changing the world through the design of new formats. Traditionally, a creative waits in his or her studio until a commission arrives, a commission from an institution. Then that triggers the design process. They produce something that is then mass-produced, it is sold, luckily celebrated, and then everything starts over again. But in the last decades, we've all lived a revolution. Today, we no longer relate to each other the same way we did 20 years ago. Today, new disruptive formats impose design, formats that directly come from the way we relate to each other. We can define these new formats sometimes imposed by institutions. Minister Jet Bussmacher from the Netherlands launched in 2015 the Art of the Impact project. The main purpose of the project was to fund and put focus in those artistic or creative projects that were trying to make an impact in the world, an impact in society, in circular economy, in energy and climate, in cities, in care, in culture itself, in privacy, or in refugee issues. This program worked as an open call for artists, but also for visual artists, for creative industries, for filmmakers, for writers, for performing artists, for video designers, and for architects, and for any other kind of creatives. And that's a very important issue, because the projects they were trying to fund were not necessarily art projects for museums, which is the usual from a ministry. Today, they've backed 122 different projects that have not only been funded, but also put focus by creating this web archive in which we can see what the ministry has funded and what has been the real impact of these projects into the world. Projects that some of them face create the creation of the future of our cities. Others try to solve the refugee or give partial solutions to the refugee challenge. Others working with representative spaces and the building in the borders. Others that are in a completely different way, which have to do with the ecology and to understand where our food or our meat comes from. Projects that design new ways of producing culture and exhibitions, such as this one, a mobile museum, or others that deal with ecology, creating zero footprint campuses. The Art of the Impact project is creating a new trend in culture and arts within the Netherlands. All the people working in culture are suddenly made to put focus into creating an impact in the world. Well, as we said before, we live today after the digital revolution. The way we communicate to each other now is not the same as we did 20 years ago. And this has triggered the creation of many bottom-up formats that have to do with the new way we communicate to each other. For example, hackathons. Hackathons are design sprint-like events in which computer programmers, graphic, web designers, developers, and other creators involved with software development collaborate intensively on specific software projects. They usually work in an open call as well to make people gather into a common space. The people involved in them, they really spend 24 hours together. That means that the boundaries of time we're used to get absolutely blurred. There is not a specific time for eating, there's not a specific time for socializing, for working, or for sleeping. These 24 events create a specific time within themselves that is only shared by this community. All those people expose their skills, expose their interests, and based on those, they create working tables or working groups to develop specific software programs for specific purposes. This one particularly is a response to a change in the law in which suddenly the city hall was going to make public a lot of information that was private before. So they launched this open call for a hackathon to explore all that information and put them visible for the rest of the public and the rest of the citizens. This system has proved to be so extremely powerful and successful that even companies have introduced them to their own systems. Here, Telefónica is one of the main technology and communications company, and they have a specific program called Hack for Good, which they create their own open calls for hackers to join and produce something innovative for the future in the field of communications. In the field of culture, the Serpentine Galleries is one of the pioneering institutions to introduce design sprint events. The Serpentine has become really famous in the last years because every summer they invite an architect that has never built anything in the UK before to build a pavilion that would only last for a few months during the summer, and which use would only be recreational. It would only be a relaxing space. But during 24 hours every year, these pavilions host what is now extremely famous, the Serpentine Gallery Marathons. In this marathon, artists, researchers, writers, architects, and many other creatives join to produce during 24 hours a discussion about a specific topic. A topic that every year has been determined by the curator, and they vary enormously from one year to another. The last marathon was the Miracle Marathon, but there has also been the Transformation Marathon, Extinction Marathon, 89+, Memory, Garden, Poetry, Manifesto, Experiment, and Interview Marathon. What is extremely interesting about these marathons is that they not only produce the event itself, but they also compile everything that has been produced during those 24 hours into something. Sometimes that something is a book, other times it's a podcast, other times it's a documentary. They make a huge effort to condense all the amount of research and of investigation that has been produced in that short period of time to show it to the world. In the field of culture, many disruptive formats have been created, and one of the persons that's responsible for creating many of them is this guy. He's Hans-Ulrich Obrist. He is one of the most famous worldwide curators. Maybe you don't know what a curator is. A curator is the person who is responsible of creating exhibitions. It's the person that serves as a link between the artist and the institution, the one that creates the things we as consumers are going to see. And he has turned upside down what exhibitions mean for the public. For example, Do It. Do It is not an exhibition. Do It is a system of creating exhibitions. Well, maybe you've already guessed it, but what Obrist asked the artists was not to create a specific art piece for a gallery or for a museum. Obrist asked the artist to create instructions that anyone could do. This way, the authors were no longer the artists. The authors were the public. The public were the activators of the exhibitions by interpreting and following these instructions. As I said before, it's not one exhibition, it's a system of generating exhibitions. Do It exhibitions have been done in many different countries all over the world, in different scales and with different artists involved. But all of them have always been compiled into books that are set of instructions by different artists so that anyone could replicate them anywhere. This is quite an interesting format because what the artist is triggering is that many people produce art within themselves. People that probably or maybe were not related to the art world in the first place. This exhibition is activating the public. Now it's gone a step farther, and it's been uploaded to a website, a living archive that contains all the sets of instructions by every artist produced in every one of Do It exhibitions, so that anyone, anywhere, anytime can read the instructions, produce whatever they produce with those instructions, and upload them to a living archive. Archives are one of Aubrey's obsessions. This archive of unrealized projects is a web archive, an archive that puts the focus not in the art that has been produced, as we always do, but in the art that has not been produced, but it could have. This way, it opens a whole set of new possibilities, of new histories, of new possible histories, based on what we have not done as artists, as creators, as designers. This archive is as well open, so that anyone, anytime, anywhere can upload their own unrealized projects, so that a specific team would therefore study all of those projects and produce specific exhibitions in different places of with these unrealized projects. In the end, what Obrist is doing in all these new forms of understanding museums and of understanding art creation is empowering the citizen. The people participating in Do It, or the people participating in the agency, suddenly they become, by their action, form of a community. These projects create instant communities, and that is the base of the next project we're going to see here. The Time Bank, Aranda and Virocles Time Bank. But what is a time bank? Well, a time bank is a tool by which a group of people can create an alternative economic model, where they exchange their time and skills rather than acquire goods and services through the use of money. This initiative, created in 2010, encouraged the people involved in this initiative to offer their skills and time to the rest of the people in the community, so that if I needed something, I would not pay for it. I would look for a person that could do it and then ask my skills and my time in return for that. This initiative was invited to participate in the 2012 Documenta 13. The Documenta is one of the most famous and important cultural events in the world. What they did for this specific place was to build a temporary space, a space that would create an instant community in which any visitor to the exhibition that would go into this space could leave their skills there as an offering, as an advert, and could also call or contact the people whose skills had been left there before. They create a time exchange based community that has now turned into a website as well, so that anyone, anywhere in the world can join the community and exchange their time for other people's time. If we go to the field of the companies, Google is definitely the leader in innovation and disruption, or at least one of them. Google, as we all see, is eager to try new design processes and implement them to their daily basis. And one of the processes that has been most successful to Google is a design sprint. They've achieved what they believe is the best design sprint possible, which is organized into a 5 days sprint, a 1 week sprint. On Monday, you would map. You would understand who are the users for your design, what are their needs, what is the context. You would review your competitors and formulate a strategy. On Tuesday, you would sketch, you would envision, ideate, develop many possible solutions, as many as you can. Because on Wednesday, you would decide. You would choose the best idea that you produced the day before, after studying all of them, and with that idea, you would sketch it and develop it a little bit more. On Thursday, you would prototype. You will build something quick and dirty to show others. This, the objective of the prototype is not being beautiful, it's being useful. It's to create something that's focused on its usability to other users. Because on Friday, you would test it. You would show your prototype to users outside of the community or outside of the working group, and then learn what does and doesn't work based on what were your intentions with that product. We can see design sprint formats have been introduced in culture, have been introduced in companies, and well, we all know the world is fast. So why not? Let's go and sprint it.